and welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in ECW history with match number 49 on our list, which is the match between Jerry Lynn and Steve Corino from the Heatwave 2000 pay-per-view held on July the 16th of 2000. This match is known for one specific moment and visual in it that we will get to later on that certainly sets it over the top. But this whole match is a great, piece of work. There's a lot of elements that come into this. So in 2000, the big storyline in ECW was the network. So Cyrus, who you might know as Don Callis, he had come into ECW as a representative of TNN, the evil network that, ECW had been broadcasting their television show on, and he was trying to clean up ECW and make it more, network television appropriate. And he had, created this heel stable of guys to help him. Steve Corino's manager Jack Victory, Rhino, Yoshihiro Tajiri, a loose association with Just Incredible, who was the ECW World Heavyweight Champion at the time, and Scotty Anton. It basically had created, this heel supergroup to torment all of the top faces in ECW. Jerry Lynn was out with an injury in early 2000, made his return, and Cyrus set his sights on Jerry Lynn, trying to basically, convince him to join the network, trying to butter him up and court him into the group, using Jerry Lynn's failed attempts at winning the ECW World Television title from Rob Van Dam as the catalyst for it. Basically, Jerry Lynn is, everybody's favorite good guy, lovable loser, can never win the big one. We've seen that story so many times with, guys like Daniel Bryan amongst others, that never win the big one phrasing. That was Jerry Lynn. So Cyrus said, come join the network. We will take you to, heights that you had never reached on your own. Jerry Lynn turned down the offer and decided to fight against the network and do things his own way. At Hardcore Heaven 2000, 1 year after his famous match at Hardcore Heaven with Rob Van Dam in '99, Jerry would beat Rob Van Dam and finally get that monkey off of his back. It wasn't without controversy, though, as there was some, network interference on the end of Scotty Anton turning on Rob Van Dam. So it wasn't by the cleanest circumstances, but Lynn would try to ride that momentum in, defeating all of the network members into a hopeful shot at the ECW World Heavyweight title. Steve Corino, on the other hand, is an incredible story to watch through ECW. So in, mid 1999, Steve Corino shows up in ECW. He's this skinny little goof. He's basically a comedy act. He's squashed by, Balls Mahoney and guys like that. But he starts to develop this character for himself of the old school hero. So basically, like I said, Cyrus trying to clean up ECW a little bit, basically the anti-hardcore guy. He would put in rest holds, and instead of, hitting guys with chairs, he would sit on chairs and he would cut, all of these great promos. And you quickly saw the talent that this guy had. So he was the stoogey heel through late 99. And then as we moved into 2000, he would get paired up with Dusty Rhodes in a feud that would absolutely make Steve Corino. But we would learn one thing about Corino in that feud. He is a hell of a bleeder. So basically every match out Steve Corino he'd hit these huge blade jobs and just bleed all over the place. By the end of 2000, his forehead was starting to look like, a 70s and 80s wrestler like Abdul the Butcher with all of the blade scarring in it. So you take Jerry Lynn, who's on this crusade to show that he's, no nonsense and he's not this lovable loser, and, he's tough and he could be the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. And you have Steve Corino, who bleeds buckets in every match, and you put both of those guys together and you get this memorable contest at Heatwave. So the match starts, Jerry Lynn comes in, House of Fire, goes to work, hits a big dive off the top rope onto Corino and Jack Victory on the floor, and very early on hits a tornado DDT off of the guardrail onto the arena floor on Corino, and Corino blades huge off of it, just blood everywhere. Corino does make a little bit of a comeback. He cuts off a bunch of Jerry's offense with, power bombs and power slams and exploder suplexes and things like that. But he ends up trying to use a chair, gets drop kicked into his head, something that Jerry Lynn picked up from his feud with Rob Van Dam, I guess. Basically hits a Van Daminator on Corino, and he hits a draping like Hangman's DDT off the top rope. And that leads us to the point that everybody knows this match for. As Corino, sits there on his knees, bleeding all over the place, Jerry Lynn takes his hand and basically finger paints with Steve Corino's blood. And he puts the war paint on, down the eyes and nose. And in something, just one of the best visuals you'll ever see, he takes Corino's blood and he writes "die" across his own stomach. The crowd loses their mind. It is so gross. It is an amazing visual, and it really does justice to the story that they were trying to display with this new, aggressive, gritty, nasty Jerry Lynn. And unfortunately, Steve Corino, as he had been many times throughout the year 2000, was the bloody sacrificial lamb whose expense that putting Jerry over, was on. We get an awesome near fall run here, though. Steve Corino hits the old school expulsion. They hadn't quite established it as his finisher yet, so Jerry kicks out at 2. Jack Victory goes into the old bag of tricks with the baby powder. Lynn kicks it up into his face, blinds Jack Victory, and he goes for his signature punch. They've always done a really good job on commentary. Jack Victory's kind of old, past his prime as just Corino's second or his manager, but they've always established that he's still got a killer punch. So he decks the referee. In all of the confusion of it, Steve Corino takes off his boot and just knocks Lynn silly with his boot. Finally, everybody's revived. We're back. We're good to go. Jerry hits an Oklahoma roll. Corino kicks him off right into a cowbell shot from Jack Victory. Corino had been carrying around a bull rope and cowbell after his feud with Dusty Rhodes, where he fought him in a bull rope match. And just a great near fall off of that. The crowd was super hot. And then our actual finish was really nice. It didn't quite fit the grudge match tone that we established up until that point, but they actually get into a wrestling sequence, and they do, the fish out of water kind of roll up reversal spot. And that is something that Lynn and Van Dam had used in almost all of their matches. And again, it shows Jerry Lynn is a changed man. Those matches with Van Dam where he couldn't win had changed him. And rather than just go through all of the sequence and end with, the traditional kind of, we call it an indie standoff now, but at the time it was kind of just like the ECW worker standoff. And instead of finishing off with that, he actually comes up and just plants Corino with the cradle pile driver, and it's enough to get him the 1, 2, 3. This is a super, super satisfying match. It's got a hot crowd, lots of blood, the visual with Lynn writing "die," the great story, and this match continued to propel Jerry Lynn throughout the summer. He would end up getting his ECW World Heavyweight title shot at Anarchy Rules 2000 in October in his hometown in Minnesota, where he would defeat Justin Credible to become the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. The reign would be short-lived. It would end up being quite the disappointment, as he would, ironically enough, lose the title to Steve Corino in a 4-way Double Jeopardy match at the November to Remember, and that would cause Jerry Lynn to hit rock bottom, and bringing this all back, finally join up with Cyrus post-network and turn heel. The heel turn I think we were all waiting for quite a while from Jerry. This match is great. It's ECW. You could find it on the WWE Network. It might be on Peacock. You can track it down online, I'm sure, but it is well worth your time. Speaking of being worth your time, please subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50, and join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.